Welcome to our discussion segment today on the program. On our discussion segment today, we'll be featuring a female basketball promoter who has been doing this for more than a decade now, giving a platform for young female basketball players all over Nigeria to have a chance to combine their sports and education, and also to have a chance to get international opportunities to play in colleges, in the national teams, and also bigger basketball opportunities. I have with me, joining us in the studio for the very first time, Funke Adeniji. Great to have you as our guest on the program.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Okay, tell us about this initiative, the Wesie. First of all, let's know Wesie. Good. What Wesie is all about and why you focus on ladies, because it's all about basketball, but you focused on the ladies. Talk about the vision, the idea, and how it all began.
So, I mean, myself, I played basketball, and I always felt like growing up there weren't enough opportunities, and that limited how far I could go or what I could do. So there wasn't anything wrong with me, but I think I just got to that point where I was playing in a place where I felt I either had to go to Europe, or I needed to just focus on other things to, earn a living. And I think around that time, because of all the experiences I've accumulated internationally and locally and winning championships, I just felt like I wanted to devote my energy more to creating a bigger platform and opportunities, and using basketball and sports as a tool of social and health empowerment, as well as creating more opportunities for young women like myself. What's different this time
is there's a league?
Yes, that's the difference. So we've been doing tournaments, we've been doing camps around the country, and so that's why we were able to progress into a league and say, okay, what's the next step in terms of creating opportunities? Because we have an academy whereby we also mentor coaches and soon to mentor players, and try to help build them and create opportunities for the coaches as well, and help them to be more visible, because we feel that will automatically translate to the young, the players and the ecosystem as a whole.
So when you talk about the elite, players, so I just want to really get this in perspective. Now, we know we have the NBBF Women's League now, so I'm trying to find out if this one is more for amateur players, championship players, or is it pro league, or is it an amateur league? So, I mean, the basketball holders want to understand how this one is defined in terms of what its impact is in the basketball ecosystem. Yeah,
so we see our league as international standard, because we're doing home and away games now. We're not just
so you have a model you're working with?
Yeah, so our model is of international standard, where people are playing home and away, which is quite different from the Zenith League at the moment. In terms of our focus, that's been a little bit challenged to get that balance right, where we're not cutting people off, but at the same time we're getting quality players. So what I would say we call it is like an elite league for elite players. Most of our players are over the age of 18, which is what I felt and the rest of the team felt was needed, because those are the players that oftentimes, because there's no other opportunities in Nigeria, if they don't get the opportunity to be scouted and go to college or to go to play pro, they stop playing because there's nothing else. And yes, you're playing Zenith League, but it's very short, and it's once a year. So even though it's good that we have the Zenith League, it's better than not having it
at all.
But we felt we needed something better, kind of thing. And we know it's always challenging for the government trying to do everything, so we kind of feel like an organization like us, we can do that little bit more and hopefully work with them in future. So we have players in their late 20s, even playing their 30s, which is good, because a lot of players don't hit their prime till their 20s and their 30s. And what's happening in Nigeria is a lot of players, as soon as they finish uni or they hit their 20s, they're stopping because there's nothing else for them to look forward to. So that's the focus, and that's probably the difference between a lot of other organizations doing what they're doing and what we're doing. So for the teams that are participating, basically what we've done, or what we've said, is there was a criteria that all the teams had to meet. I mean, this is the thing, if you're trying to organize an event, a sporting event of international standard, then there has to be some criteria. So we had to put some criteria in place. One of the criteria was that the teams commit to doing our program, our mentorship program, which consists of an online program as well as like a book, amongst other things, and then also commit to engaging with us and working with us, because we don't feel like any one person can do it alone. We need people with the right mindset.
Let's go back to the fact that you've done this 10 years now and counting. So what has been the progression for the players that have played this league so far in terms of chances for the national team? You talked about colleges, opportunities, scholarship programs. What has been the roadmap?
So the roadmap, I think for us, our priority has actually been creating something of international standard that we know creates local opportunities for players, and that's also the money side of things. I mean, that's probably a different topic, but the money side of things. So our main focus isn't about, which I think everyone's focus is about, can we get this player into college, can we get them abroad, because that's where some of the money is, but that's not where the big money is yet. But that's what people see, kind of thing. So that's always been our focus, because we've always felt that if you have a great event, automatically people will get seen and will get picked up. So that's always been the way we've looked at it. And so we've had players obviously through the years who have gone to college. Some are finishing from our first early camps, some have gone pro, Japan, different places. So that, like I said, and some have been scouted for the national team and got to play from the national team, because we've had national coaches come to scout and watch. So those things are there. It's not something that I get so excited about. I'm happy for the players, because I feel that's not the bigger picture.
So how do you feel about the fact that it's all about the girl child for the women, for the ladies, what the women in sports want to achieve? Women's
sports is great. In the last 5-10 years, we've seen a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes compared to when I was playing or coming through. It's great that we're able to realize a vision and being able to influence in a positive way. And since I started doing this, and since we started, definitely there's been a lot of progress in the level of players, the level of talent coming through, the level of competitions coming through, just because of the opportunities that we've created. And we've seen more people now doing stuff for women, which wasn't the case when I started and gave birth to the vision. And most of the men that come through our mentorship program, some of them only coach men or run men's program. Some of them do mix, so they take what they learn as well and apply it to both the guys and the women and what they do in their various programs. So in a way, it's become more of a community thing, kind of thing, even though our sporting events are more women. And I think I will just add here, when it comes to, people talk a lot about gender inequality, women in sports. That's not just about players, that's also about people like me. There aren't many people like me or many ladies like me doing this.
What has been, or what will be the structure of the running of this league in the long term now? Because it's more like a private league. I know in the US, I talked about this the other time when I met you. In the US, we have the NBA. That's not totally influenced by the government, but the government keeps the policies for them to run this league. Of course, we all talked about the Senate League running side by side with this. So what's the long-term structure, maybe constitution that guides this, that makes this viable to keep moving on in Nigeria for the long term?
Now, in terms of the long term, you're right, there is no country in the world, and before we started this, obviously we looked far. I've played abroad. We've looked far and wide in terms of how these things are structured, how they work, and the long-term sustainability. And although I thought of doing a league actually a few years back, personally what I think would work in the long term is us working a little bit closer with the federation, etc., kind of thing. So at the moment, it sometimes feels like the federations do a little tournament here and there, and they do the National League, etc. And I almost feel as if some things they do to tick boxes, and some things that need to be done, they're focused less on. And that is also to do with people's expectation, and I think that needs to change. I don't feel the governing body needs to do everything or needs to be doing tournaments all over the place. I think what would be nice is to focus on things like the infrastructure, the facilities, the equipment, and create an enabling environment, and work more closely with organizations like myself that have been doing this for well over a decade, because I really believe there are things that they could learn from us and we could learn from them. And I think if we were to be able to work together more efficiently, that would also encourage more investors to invest in the sports.
I know players play at the end of the tournaments, apart from the prize money, what else do they gain? Because I know, like the government league, of course, they go for FIBA tournaments and everything like that. But do you have maybe tournaments maybe out of the country one time or the other that you can walk towards the players, the winners get, apart from just getting the prize money, possibly?
Yeah, so I think that number one is the experience. The experience we give participants is unrivaled, and I'm not just saying that. I think that's a fact. The prize money, yes, kind of thing. The visibility and the opportunity they get is also another thing. The building, in terms of the whole, capacity building that we do, is also part of it, which you don't get anywhere else in any other program. So that's what kind of probably makes us a bit unique. In terms of international, events and competing, yes, that is in the pipeline. I think that will come, but it's important to have a very strong foundation.
Okay, fantastic.
Within Nigeria, and then I think automatically those other things will start to come, in the near future.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay. Adeniji, thank you so much for being our guest today on the program.
Thank you for having me, George. I've really enjoyed being with you and speaking with you.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, that has been the guest section on Sports World today on the network service of the NT. The program continues after this time out. Stay tuned.